Pretty cool.
Pretty.
Yeah. Just about halfway. Nice fall colors. Got the river on the other side. Things going good. Okay, this is my update from my couch to 100 mile in 4.5 months. So, pleased to say that I completed it and I actually feel great. No muscle issues, no injuries, nothing. It's been 2.5 days or so. Walking around fine. Actually, I think I got one tiny blister. So that was probably the thing I was the most afraid of, was blisters. But I used the, what is it called? Engine-y, but trail sock. Which is funny because somebody bought me Engine-ys or whatever years and years and years ago, and I totally hated them. But this trail sock seems to be perfect for me. So we'll go back. I said in my last video when I did the 3.5 month, the grindstone 50K, I said I would go into a little bit of my history of why of me and why I chose to do 100 miles versus, you know, like a marathon or something like that in 4.5 months. So I hadn't done anything in over 10 years. The last race I've done at all with anything, it was the only ultramarathon I've ever done, was 10 years ago, and that was the JFK 50. So I actually wished I could have signed up for it for this year, because I was thinking how cool it would be to be able to do a me versus me. So a 35-year-old me versus a 45-year-old me, to see, you know, like with me actually training, because I didn't train for the JFK 50 because, going back to the history, I was doing Ironmans when I was in like my 30s, early 30s, until 35. And that's when I just pretty much stopped doing everything. I gained a ton of weight, and then here we are now, because of course I was looking at my blood work. I went to the doctor, looked at my blood work, looked at everything, and I was like, oh crap, I need to do something, and I need to do something like now, because this doesn't look good. So fast forward, it's been the 4.5 months, did the training, all my blood work and everything is like perfect right now. I do have a history of doing ultra distance stuff. You know, it may not be ultra marathons, but that's one reason I wanted to choose the 100 miles over a different one. So when people were watching this and maybe trying to decide what they should do, the reason I did that was because I know that the Ironmans have a marathon in them, you know. So I have so much experience doing a marathon when I'm already tired and all beat up and stuff like that. So I was worried what might happen was that I'd start my training, I was almost 300 pounds, and I would start losing a little bit of weight and be like, oh, all right, things are gonna go just fine. It's only a marathon, you know? And I was like, I need something that's so daunting of a task that if I don't train and do everything I need to do, you know, I will fail. So I needed the bar that high. So that's why I chose it. It's going to be a different story for every single person. Everyone operates different. Everyone's mind works different. That's how my mind works. That's why I chose it. Happy I chose it. We'll go over what went right, what went wrong. I'm actually glad that I waited a few days to do this video, because originally in my mind, because I finished and I didn't feel all destroyed and everything like that, in my brain I was like, everything went right. You know, but now that I've had time to reflect on it, yeah, there's definitely things that I wish, you know, I would have, one, I wish I considered, and two, I wish I had. The one I wish I considered was, because I did no crew and I did no pacer. So the no crew was not by choice. It was because my wife didn't want to. The no pacers I did because I didn't really care, because I don't need motivation or anything like that. There's actually a funny part of the story is there was a point in the race where I was like spouting off something like I normally do, even with the Ironmans and stuff like that. I'd be like, hey, we're 75 miles in, we're 3/4 of the way done. And someone turned around with the most serious look in his face. He was like, I don't think I've ever seen a more glass half full person than you. So, but I've always been that way with the Ironmans. But I do notice like the difference between the trail runners and then the Ironman people were, some people used to get mad about that, you know, where, you know, you get off the bike and you start running, and I'd be like, yeah, it's only a marathon, we got this. And people are like, ugh. You know, like for the most part, like everyone would cheer and stuff like that for, you know, for the ultra marathon. And everyone, reason I would do a pacer if I had somebody was sleep deprivation. So I'm a retired firefighter, and I didn't think that would be any issue at all for me, because I was at one of the busiest stations in the United States. We used to run calls nonstop, never had any issues with getting tired. But there's a difference, I guess, that I'm learning between running calls and interacting and doing exciting things for 36 hours straight or 32 hours, depending on, you know, what's going on, versus sitting in the woods or running in the woods, pitch black, no sound, no anything, you know, for that long. I found myself multiple times running. So there was a cliff and a river, and it's about a 20-foot drop, and the water, or I think the temperature at night was in its 30s. So if I would have gone off that cliff, nobody would have known. And there was multiple times I was running and virtually falling asleep while I was running and realizing I was at the edge of the cliff and I'd have to go move myself over. So safety reasons, it's probably a good idea to have a pacer. So if you want to call them a pacer or a safety thing, because I know some courses actually call them safety runners. So that one, if I had somebody who felt like running with me or whatever, I would probably do it. You know, I wouldn't really care about it until about mile 70 or 80. So I was like, I think for me, like 50 to 70 before I'm tired and stuff, I was like, would be kind of a waste. But crew wise, never did I expect, I didn't even realize it, even as people were like complaining to me about their crews, you know, what the difference was. Like I had a guy, he was complaining to me while we were running. He's like, I can't believe my crew, they mixed my drinks wrong. He was like, it's supposed to be this much protein and chocolate protein with whatever and carbohydrate mix. And I'm sitting there at, you know, mile 80, and I've got 2 flasks full of Diet Coke or regular Coca-Cola, because my drop bag, because of the temperature was going to be so crazy, my drop bag was so full of just clothes, you know, I could only squeeze in like a few gels, you know. So I've got like a handful of gels to get me through the rest of this race, and just a bunch of clothes that, since I can't switch them out, I'm carrying them. I've got a shirt tied around my neck, just in case I have to put it as a layer. I've got stuff stuffed in my bag. I've got just a bunch of extra stuff I'm doing, and I wasted a ton of time like organizing things at the checkpoints because of it. You know, I didn't think of this. I should have, because I think in my research, I read somebody say that the food's better at the end of the race, but it definitely was not. Because I remember at the beginning of the race, I went by aid station. They were like, "We've got quesadillas." And I was like, "Let me taste these for later." And I was like, "Oh my God, these things are delicious." So it turns out, later in the night, people aren't coming through aid stations nonstop. So that once warm quesadilla that had dripping delicious cheese all over it is now like a hard, nasty, disgusting thing, and the cheese is all dried up, and it was terrible. So like, if you can have a crew, even if it's someone only semi-reliable to get you what you need, and they can just bring you a bag and let you pick out what you need and stuff, it would be a huge thing, like I knew it really wasn't going to affect if I was going to finish or not, but drinking regular soda for your nutrition for that long, it was, especially, I don't drink normal soda, so it was pretty gross and disgusting. So I'll definitely look into making sure I have a crew. Like, if I don't get a pacer, I don't get a pacer, but I need somebody as a crew member next time if I do another 100 miler, or another year or so when I do another 100 miler. Maybe a little sooner if I find one that's close, that's not gonna, like I said, eat up a whole family vacation to do. So those are the two biggest things I learned. And it's funny because those were nowhere on the aspect that I thought that I would be learning anything. I thought that maybe there was something else that I would be learning. But those were total things I wasn't expecting to be like learning lessons from this. I thought it was going to be something different about like timing of when to do things, but I made a plan. I stuck to it. Even though there was a few times my brain was like, "Hey, we can speed up. I've got a lot more energy." And I said, "No, that's a bad idea, because I've never gone 100 miles before." So I was like, I don't know how my body will react. And once you go to a certain point and, redline it too much, it's hard to fix it. So I actually use those as little checkpoints in my brain to tell myself, you know what, if my brain's telling me I should speed up even more, I was like, maybe I should start adding little walks in, or if I was going to do a 0.10 mile walk at a certain point, now maybe I'll do a 0.15. So I actually kind of use that as like a checkpoint to, like, if you saw my other video when I was talking about grindstone, and I got a little froggy because I was like, oh, it's only a 30K. And it ended up being 85 degrees, hot and terrible. And then I ran real fast and got dehydrated, finished just fine and stuff. Because like I said, I was training for 100 miler. So even though I only did 30K, or 50K, I was like, it beats you up a lot. I actually am in better shape as far as like how I feel after this race than I was after grindstone. So I did grindstone. If I would have raced it the right way, it would have been like any other training day for me, but I didn't. I twisted my ankle going too fast, not paying attention. I went out too fast on a hot day. My nutrition was terrible because I was like, oh, hot day. And turns out I did too much sodium and potassium, which also causes dehydration. So once the dehydration kicked in and my muscles tightened up, then it made my ankle even worse because all that stuff's connected. So that is a lesson, and it was also a good reminder before a 100-miler to not, get in over your skis, as they say. So hopefully this is good information for people. If you guys want to know more, you can ask some questions, and I'd like to hear back from everyone. So, all right, thanks.